Good morning, afternoon, evening, night, wherever you are. Welcome back to another episode of things that probably won't happen ever in real life, but we can imagine and dream. So let's get back to building. So last time we started talking about setting up a minimum viable setup for product-led growth. We're going to continue doing that. Just as a recap, let's see what we had here. We decided that we are going to build a software startup. And our software startup has features, consumption-based pricing, that type of stuff. While the developers are building the actual product, us on the commercial side, we will focus on setting up everything else, the entire commercial infrastructure. So if you haven't seen episode 1, go check it out. We dive into a bit more context there. And let's get cracking. So just as a reminder, we decided to go with HubSpot as our sales and marketing CRM. So today, that's exactly what we're going to be doing. We're going to set up HubSpot from scratch. Let's see how far we get. Now, before we get into the fun stuff, let me just go through a couple of things, considerations about CRMs, things sort of I keep in mind, reasons for me to use a CRM, a feature over another. Anyway, so today, let's talk about what do we want out of a CRM and what do we definitely not want it to do. The latter part is perhaps the more important one, because this is where I feel we often go a bit wrong. We expect that the CRM, while able, but also should do everything under the sun, and definitely not the case in the real world. Then we'll tie it back to product-led growth, a couple of Miro graphs, and we'll get cracking with the actual setup. So first and foremost, why do we need a CRM on the commercial side? Well, the obvious ones are we want it to be a place to store contact records, company records. We want it to be easy to manage. People can add them, we can import, we can edit fields, the usual stuff. In a world of sales, we also want to track pipeline. It's a great place for our reps to go in and manage the bookings, the deals that they're working on. At the same time, a CRM tends to be the integrations hub for other smaller auxiliary software providers that you would want to use. Things like the on-demand video from Wistia, metadata.io for ads. They work specifically, or they have integrations predominantly for mainstream CRMs like HubSpot, Salesforce. We also want the CRM to create actionable items to relevant parties, right? Which leads me sort of to the last point here. We want our CRM to help us make operational decisions, things in them now, things happening today, tomorrow, next week. Things like workflow automation, send out an email, set a reminder, set some tasks. That's the bread and butter of CRMs, and we want to keep it that way. What we don't want it to do, though, we don't want it to be like the reporting hub of everything. Especially, well, I wouldn't say especially HubSpot, but in the case of HubSpot, there are certain things that are a bit hard with their reporting. So we're just not going to attempt to do that. We will use their reporting capabilities for sort of day-to-day operational things, but anything related to historical overviews, conversions, that sort of stuff, we'll do it later in some form of a BI tool, if we get that far. We also really don't want the CRM to be the source of all truth. In fact, it cannot be. Remember, we are a product-led growth company. We have a software product, which means that basically those two cannot ever fully integrate into each other. Another consideration there is I've often seen folk use custom objects to represent certain things. While I do support the ideas, and in many cases it's the correct approach, you can go quite wrong with it if that's your first the first thought in your mind. You go, okay, let's do a custom object. So, well, let's see if we have to use a custom object. Probably yes, but we'll evaluate that along the line. Okie dokie. That's enough slides. Let's get to the Miro board. So, okay. How does this relate to product-led growth? Let's start over here. So let's just imagine this thing here on the right side. This is part of our product database. We have contacts there. There's probably a bunch of them. In fact, I hope we will have a lot of contacts, because an app that is used by only one person, well, that not exactly successful. All right. So the point I'm trying to make here is that we have similar things, similar ideas in our product and in our CRM, and we want to mirror those. We want to be able to sync and have both systems understand that this person here with, let's say, email richardmacara@gmail.com also exists in HubSpot under ID, whatever, and we need to just be able to understand that it's the same person. So in terms of setting up a PLG setup, this is going to be stage one. We are going to mirror product and CRM in terms of the people who we have there. Eventually, we really want to talk about things like this. Eventually, we want to talk about things like this here. So how do you represent revenue in a CRM, right? If your product database only understands people but not accounts, companies, billing entities, you're going to have a very hard time seeing that any of that on your CRM site, because as it is on your product, in your product, you also have to do similar relationships in the CRM. So we will eventually get back to this, but just know that the reason why we are spending an extra amount of time on the CRM first is that eventually we need to be able to represent the product account where people spend the money on, or where we have product usage features. We need to somehow tie it back to a different level object in our CRM or any other system than the contact. So it's not enough that we just have the same person in both systems. Now, if we look at our stage one in a bit more expanded fashion, what we want to do here is not only have the contacts in sync, we probably also want to know when this person has signed up, when was the last time this person has been seen in the app, so login events. And through that, we would be then able to do active list building in HubSpot. We can do a couple of workflows, send some automated emails, hey, welcome to my app, and here's all the things you need to do, blah, 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 blah. So HubSpot is generous enough to provide us with a completely free development environment. And when I say development, I mean just an entire HubSpot instance with enterprise-grade features for free for 90 days. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to go over to developers.hubspot.com and we're going to create a developer account. I have already done this, so this might look a bit different for me. However, just follow along the instructions, and eventually you will get to a place where you can manage your test accounts. What we want to do here is simply create a new test account. So let's do a PLG episode 2. Here, and let's see what we got going on here. Welcome to your fully instantiated enterprise grade HubSpot instance. This is where you and I will be doing the majority of the work, and if you do want to follow along, just open up a HubSpot account. Easy as that. So you might wonder, what's the first thing we should do with a fresh new account? Honestly, let's head over to the settings and explore a bit. We know that we want to set up a product-led setup. We also know that we have a sales team. We know that that sales team works with companies, so people who work at companies and companies that we can have a separate record. So I'd say that's the first thing we start with. We head over to the objects side here, and let's talk about the contact section for a moment. By default, you will have the fill contact details with email from HubSpot AI. That's good to keep on. It simply will give you a free enrichment. At this point in time, when we're just starting out, cool. Anything free, we'll take it. What we also want to do is we want to assign the company owner to contact by default. So again, what this does is any contact created and associated to a company, it will automatically change the owner of that contact to the company owner. This is important because we want to work on a company level, right? It's great that we will have free users and maybe individuals, but at the end of the day, we also want to keep a track of the companies and the people involved with those. So we'll fundamentally start working company first. In addition, what I would do is probably customize the record here. There's a lot of stuff that is not necessary. We'll get back to this. We'll probably add a custom question here. Like let's imagine that our the most important thing we need to know from a form submission is what our number of search queries is, or whatever. We'll figure that out. The only really important thing here is to set the email as required. In fact, I think it already is. And what we want to do also is hit this one here, website URL, make that one required, and throw it to the top. So again, all this really does is when a rep creates a contact, they have to fill in these. Okay, hit save and let's get going. I think we're more or less done for this section for now. So let's head over to the company's defaults, and this is where things get interesting. By default as well, you will get HubSpot's data enrichment. We'll keep it. It's good enough for now. But more importantly, we want to toggle this one over here. Create and associate contacts. Contact records in HubSpot. What this will do is, based on a contact's email address or the website field that we selected as mandatory, it will then look up what company this could be and create a company record. It will also associate that contact with the company, which means we don't have to deal with that type of stuff. Now, same thing here. Let's customize the form real quick. Yep, this want to make. Yep, and owner and everything else. Honestly, is it's nice to have, so we can do, but it's not like we really want to focus on the identifiers at this point. So cleanup we can do later as long as we got those required. The lifecycle sync stages we'll leave out for now. It's a concept that I don't know how I feel about. I think I'd say let's not do it. But if anybody really wants to learn about lifecycle stages, we can also do that. Just let me know in the comments. In terms of pipeline, we'll probably let's just stick with the default pipeline. It's good enough. We don't need to make any crazy changes. When it comes to pipeline in general, I am very much of the opinion that you should close earlier than later. You know, the longer you have pipeline living and not moving anywhere, the worse you're off. That really messes up your forecasting, your predictability, and it's just generally not good. I have seen a few cases where you would use the deals section as a target list, you know, to sort of create companies that you're actively looking to prospect. I personally don't support that idea. Deals should always be active pipeline. If there's, for example, active conversation going on, then yeah, create a deal. But otherwise, no. Let's see, we're kind of running out of time, but I did want to do one more thing here. So just to sort of showcase an end-to-end type of scenario, we're going to go ahead and create just a regular old lead gen form, just to showcase how this whole contact association to and company creation works. So we're just going to call this sales demo request my new form. It's very important to keep a naming convention in HubSpot. Unfortunately, you're not really able to categorize your forms. So if you ever want to do cohort analysis when you're doing it somewhere else, you basically can only rely on the form name. So keeping a steady naming convention for your forms actually will help you to be able to splice it up later. So that's good enough for now. Homepage. What we do here, let's ask the email address, make this required, great. As an additional property, what we could do is let's just create that custom thing we were talking about. So relatively easy to do that here as well. Let's say it's a drop down and it will be my qualifying info. User input it. Am I spelling that correct? Nah. Qualifying. Okie dokie. So next it's just going to ask us a couple of options. In terms of HubSpot, I personally prefer the drop down over radio. Usually you can't even select multiple options, so we're good here. Let's say this is I'm a high spender, I'm a medium spender, I'm here for the free stuff, But obviously for you, your own questions will be completely contextual to what you're selling, what you need to know. I just couldn't come up with a sensible example on the spot, so what we have now is this. Now, of course, it's not nice to have labels meant for operations people in the actual form, so let's just clean that up real quick. How much are you willing to spend on, advertising? Great. Now let's just update this guy a little here, and it's going to give us a code. So I'm just going to quickly install this into our, dummy website is not the greatest example because there's literally nothing here yet, but let's just, for the purpose of this exercise, see what happens. If you want to do this local testing, you kind of have to add the HTTPS to this. Let's see. Boom. We have a form that looks really messy, so I'm going to just quickly do this. Okay, much better. Sorry about that. So, as for the purpose of this exercise, I'm just going to use my own email. So please don't please don't spam me, because I am terrible at email anyway, so I probably wouldn't even answer. Okay, so richardmacara@paddle.com. That's a good email. Let's say I'm a high spender, and I've just submitted the form. Back over here in our trusty test account, what we'll have now is a contact called Richard Macara. Well, just my email, since HubSpot doesn't know who I am. Wow. However, they do know who Paddle is, and that's the most important thing. As you can see here on the left, we now have a set of enriched company level data that we can use for segmentation. Easy. Now, it is already 20 minutes in, so I think I will leave the lead routing, contact routing, account routing for later. But for now, basically what we did want to cover is setting up HubSpot from the start. And again, there's so much to do, as you can imagine, but this is a more than good enough start. Next time we'll dig a bit deeper. We'll probably set up a proper website, and maybe we can do some proper dummy testing with a dummy app with a dummy product database and see how we can sort of sync contacts between a couple of tools. All right. Thank you very much. Peace.